Thank you for attending the iHire Interviewing Tips webinar. I'm Chuck Boatler, one of the job agents here at iHire, and I'll be with you today. If there are three words that come to mind when it comes to interviewing, those words are preparation, preparation, and preparation. Many of you who are pros at interviewing may find some of this to be pretty basic, but there are many of you out there who also find this to be a very daunting situation, especially if you haven't interviewed in many years. So we just want to make this a little easier for you so that when you do get to the point of getting an interview, things will go a lot better. Today's agenda is really fourfold. We're going to provide you a quick review of the basics. We're going to provide 4 essential steps to building rapport with your interviewer, how to prepare for behavioral interviews, and also to give you a little hint with the STAR approach to making sure that you're working within those behavioral interviews properly. Let's start with the basics. Obviously, this probably goes without saying, but you need to dress professionally. You need to dress the part based on the job that you are applying to. Be careful with the cologne and perfume. You don't want to get someone who might be allergic to it or find it offensive. Arrive 10 minutes early to your interview. You don't want to be the person who arrives late, and you certainly don't want to be the person who arrives an hour early either. That way you might be appearing to be too anxious. Bring several copies of your resume. Hopefully, if you've done your homework and you know who you're meeting with, bring 2 or 3 additional copies beyond who you believe you'll be meeting with. And finally, never be negative in the interview. Even if you've had a bad experience with a previous employer or you're currently employed and you're not happy there, always focus on what positive things you bring to the table for the interview, and don't focus on the things that have happened in the past that are negative. A successful interview always begins with your ability to easily build rapport either with the company or the interviewer. We're going to go through 4 steps right now that are real important to helping you build rapport. First of all, eye contact, very important in the interview process. When the interviewer is speaking to you, you absolutely need to look them in the eye to make sure that they realize that you're really taking in the information, that you're interested. And when you're speaking to them, make sure you're making that contact to at least get some acknowledgement that they are able to understand what exactly it is that you bring to the table. Make sure you're not looking away, looking down, looking up, because that tends to make an interviewer feel that there's less than trustworthy information being passed along here. This might be pretty obvious to many of you, but remembering the interviewer's names is a very important way of building rapport. Find out who you're going to be meeting with before your interview. Repeat their names when you're first introduced, and be sure that you're using their names throughout the interview. That way you're making that connection, you're not putting any distance in between it, and they also understand that you've done some of your homework before you get to the interview. Also, make a point of interacting with the receptionist once you arrive for your interview. Not only will it help relax you and break the ice, but this may also be a person you'll eventually be working with, and you certainly want the first impression that they make of you to be a good one. And finally, how well do you know the company that you're interviewing for? It's real important to research the company before the interview. Look online, do searches, find out how long the company's been in business. Use this information during the interview. Find out how many locations do they have. Are they local? Are they regional? Are they national? If you can get a feel for what their long-term goal is for their company, that's going to provide you a leg up on your competition also. And for any information that you're not sure about that you found online, it's certainly appropriate to ask for clarification on that information when you do get into the interview process. It shows that you've done your homework, and it shows the interviewer that you care about that job and you want to be a part of their success for years to come. Many of my clients have told me that they haven't interviewed in 10, 15, 20 years. They don't really know what's involved. And one of the things you should be aware of is many companies out there are now using a behavioral interviewing technique, and that's based on the premise that past performance is the best indicator of how you're going to handle situations working for them in the future. How do you approach this, and how do you manage this process? The reason that this is such an important technique now by employers is because several studies have shown that the behavioral-based interviewing technique has been 80% accurate in terms of getting the right fit for a company, as opposed to the one-on-one unstructured interview that companies used to use and the structured panel interviews that many companies are still using. At iHire, we believe that there are really 5 key steps to preparing for the interview. As we mentioned before, it's important to research the company. It's important to know what their mission statement is if they have one. Understand their focus. What is their customer base? What is the size of the company? Who do they appeal to? Have you ever conducted a web search on the company to view their online profile? If you've read anything out there on blogs or comments from customers, it's important to know who the company is so that they know that you, again, care about working for them and want to be an integral part of their growth. And most importantly, you should understand what products and services they do offer to the public. One way that you can research a company is by actually attempting to interact with the company prior to the interview process. Call their customer service line, see how they respond. Visit their store, whether it's a brick and mortar store or an online store, or if you can find anything online from maybe a previous employee about what a good company it is to work for, what issues they may have, anything that you can do to interact, call in, learn about what the customer experience is with that company will also be helpful in preparing for that interview. Before you go in for that interview, make a point of reading that job description and where you found that job. Make sure you understand exactly what it is that you're going in for. It's part of being prepared. I mean, do your skills truly match their requirements? Have you had the opportunity to rehearse some typical questions and answers based on that particular job posting? Prepare some questions of your own to ask. The reason being is this shows your level of interest and your concern for them as a potential employee, and that you want to, again, be a part of helping them become a better company. So there are a lot of people out there who are sending lots of resumes out to lots of jobs. Make sure that you understand when they do call you for that interview what exactly it is that you're going in for, and are you truly a match? Remember when we talked a couple minutes ago about behavioral interviewing? Well, people will often say, well, what types of questions are those that we'd have to encounter? A typical question they may ask you as part of this process will be something like, tell me a situation to where you've had to deal with a difficult coworker. Or can you give me an example of a time where you had to manage an angry customer and what actions you took to help pacify and ultimately satisfy that customer? Or even tell me about a time where you felt that you had to take a risk for the betterment of both the company and the customer. These are some behavioral types of questions that you might be asked. And again, that's meant to extract some information from you about how you may potentially react right now by giving them information on what you've done in the past in this situation. So you might want to rehearse those types of answers that you would give to questions like that. A good way to manage your answers to the behavioral interviewing type questions is to think of the word STAR, S-T-A-R. Answer the questions keeping in mind the situation that you were in, the task you needed to accomplish that situation, the action that you took, and the results that came from it. So if you're asked that type of behavioral question, you should be able to be specific with them to let them know what you did, what action you took, and what was the outcome of what happened there. If you keep STAR in mind, S-T-A-R, that should help you through that questioning technique. Finally, another great way to prepare for your interview is to go through in your mind your list of your accomplishments that happened with your previous employers. You don't just want to talk in generalities. You want to talk in specifics. Talk about any quantifiable results or accomplishments that you were able to do as a former employee. And what this then does is this sets you apart from the rest of your competition. While everyone else wants to talk about job duties and things that they've done and things they're capable of, you instead should be prepared to talk about not only what you did, but what you did well. So make sure that your accomplishments match that job description that you're referring back to prior to the interview. Finally, after the interview, what do? Make a point of following up and sending either a note or an email within 24 to 48 hours outlining again how you're the perfect candidate, what it is that you bring to the table better than anyone else out there. Make sure that you're not calling the employer several times a day after the interview. You don't want to be that person, but it is fair to at least ask when they anticipate making a decision on that. Now, again, this is Chuck Boatler with iHire. I hope you found this brief webinar to be helpful to you. We wish you the best of luck on your interviews, and if you do need some additional assistance, please feel free to talk to one of the job agents here at iHire.